And I'll begin the recording.
Okay, thank you, Audrey.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This is our regular scheduled Board of Commissions meeting for November 26, 2024. The time is 12:07 p.m. And before we get started, we do have members of the media and members of our medical society that are present. And in addition to that, Chairman John Rivera is attending our board meeting via Zoom and with his written explanation, and it is dated for the 26th of November as well. So before we begin, I want to thank everybody for joining us to our board meeting. This is a Board of Commissions meeting, so there will be times when many of you may want to interject, but please be reminded that this is a courtesy from the GHURA that you are all here. You will be treated with the respect that you are entitled to. And at no time
I think we're back.
All right, perfect. One more test, please. Chairman Rivera, could you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so roll
Please
call
start
right
from the
now.
beginning.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. All right, so Chairman Rivera, present. Commissioner Torres. Present. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rice.
Present.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Delia and Commissioner Corpus has been excused from this meeting. We have quorum. Thank you. Second item on the board, on the agenda, board meetings and public announcements. First printing Tuesday, November 19th, 2024, and the second printing Sunday, November 24th, 2024, which you can also find in your packets. Please note that all of our information could be found online as well.
If I may, Vice Chair Nate.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, but we lost you at a point when you were explaining something in the beginning to everyone that's present.
Yes.
And then you froze. So would you mind repeating what you were indicating?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Madam Director. Just to reiterate what I said, again, we welcome everyone who is attending via Zoom. We welcome our friends and family from the media and any and everybody who's in attendance. And I want to point out that this is a courtesy. This is a regular scheduled board meeting. This is not going to be a Q&A session, okay? We will behave ourselves and conduct ourselves in a manner that is becoming a professional and an adult. And if I feel at any time and anybody steps out of line, regardless of where they're from, I will ask you kindly to remove yourself from this meeting. But aside from that, we will hash things out professionally and objectively. We have members of GHURA here that will demystify everything that's been circulating on social media and in the media in general. And today is purely fact checking and setting the record straight. And the people of Guam are entitled to know exactly how and why and what direction that we are taking. And with that being said, we will go ahead and move on to the item number 2 for approval of our board meetings and public announcements. Thank you, Madam Director.
Are we going to go through the approval of the previous board minutes, or?
Yes, Madam Director, we're at item number 2. We are going through the board meetings and public announcements.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, you're fine. And those board meetings and public announcements were printed on the 19th and 24th of November, and they can be found in your packets as well. All right, so we're moving on to item 3, approval of previous board minutes. Which paragraph?
Discussion.
Page 5.
Yes.
Fernandez.
Page 5 of the minutes, 5th line down. It should indicate that the absolute drop debt date. And second paragraph, Deputy Director Fernandez should read Fernando Estevez.
Thank you, Commissioner. If there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and move to approve the previous board minutes. Okay, Commissioners, make a motion to approve the previous board minutes with the corrections to page 5, grammatical and content. Get a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular schedule Board of Commissioners meeting of November 12th, 2024. With the corrections,
The grammatical, yeah.
grammatical and content corrections.
Correct. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. For a second.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner. Show of hands, take a vote. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners. Motion passes for the previous board minutes. All right, moving on to item number 4, number 2. Resolution number FY 2025-010. This is a resolution approving the amendment authorizing GHURA to accept an additional $2,500,000 to Guam's coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds for community development projects. In addition, $200,000 in Guam coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds for associated administrative costs, and the ratification of all board commissioners' actions taken pursuant to resolution FY 2024-016 and FY 2024-016A. Madam Director, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Nate. Resolution number FY 2025-010. Resolution approving the amendment authorizing GHURA to accept an additional $2,500,000 in Guam coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds for community development projects, an additional $200,000 in Guam coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds for associated administrative costs, and the ratification of all Board of Commissioners actions taken pursuant to resolution numbers FY 2024-016 and FY 2024-016A. Whereas the Board of Commissioners of the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority, GHURA, is granted by 12 Guam Code annotated subsection 5103 and subsection 5104 the powers, rights, privileges, functions, and duties of the authority enacted through policy to engage in housing projects as defined in 12 Guam Code annotated subsection 5102. And whereas 12 Guam Code annotated subsection 5122 outlines provisions for cooperation with GHURA and the government of Guam, and whereas on May 28, 2024, GHURA accepted a loan in the amount up to $10 million for capital projects, specifically the purchase of real property for the development of healthcare facilities and related community development projects within the municipality of Manila, Guam. And whereas GHURA has a long history of assisting or completing community projects in full or in part that include but are not limited to public health laboratories, community health facilities, behavioral health facilities, senior citizen centers, adult daycare facilities, police stations, fire stations, and recreational facilities. And whereas GHURA determined the purpose of the loan is consistent with powers, rights, functions, and duties granted by 12 Guam Code annotated subsection 5103 and subsection 5104, and healthcare facilities and community development projects are housing projects as defined in 12 Guam Code annotated subsection 5102. And whereas on July 23rd, 2024, GHURA accepted a grant of $300,000 to facilitate research, survey, and appraisal costs, as well as associated administrative costs for the purchase of real property viable for the development of healthcare facilities and related community development projects within the municipality of Manila, Guam. And whereas GHURA's acceptance of funding and its purpose were reflected in resolution FY 2024-16 and resolution FY 2024-16A, respectively. And whereas on November 6, 2024, the Honorable Lourdes A. Leon Guerrero, Imagahagan, Guam, offered GURA additional funding to support acquisition efforts. And whereas GURA determined an additional $2,500,000 is necessary for real property acquisitions and an additional $200,000 is necessary for administrative costs consistent with purposes outlined in FY 2024-016A. And whereas the funding source for all funding herein are federal funds from the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds, SLFRF. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority accepts the additional funding of $2,500,000 in addition to the original $10 million for a total amount of $12,500,000 for capital projects, specifically the acquisition of real property viable for the development of healthcare facilities and related community development projects within the municipality of Manila, Guam. And be it further resolved that the Board of Commissioners of the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority accepts the additional $200,000 in grant funding in addition to the original $300,000 for a total amount of $500,000 to facilitate research, survey, and appraisal costs, as well as associated administrative costs for the acquisition of real property viable for the development of healthcare facilities and related community development projects within the municipality of Manila, Guam. And be it further resolved that the executive director is duly authorized and directed to exercise any executive powers, privileges, duties, or functions consistent with powers granted to GURA under 12 Guam Code Annotated Chapter 5 relative to the purpose and conditions of available funding provided by this act. And be it further resolved that any real property acquired utilizing funds under this policy shall be held by GURA for housing projects as defined in 12 Guam Code Annotated subsection 5102. And be it further resolved that Resolution FY 2025-010 shall supersede Resolution FY 2024-016 and FY 2024-016A, and that all prior actions taken pursuant to preceding resolutions herein before are ratified, affirmed, and adopted. And be it further resolved that the Board of Commissioners of the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority reserves its authority and delegate it to the Executive Director to approve any grant, sale, like in-kind exchange, or any other conveyance of any real property acquired utilizing funds provided under this policy.
Thank you, Madam Director. Would you like to answer that?
No, I mean, pretty straightforward based on the projections for the acquisitions.
Okay.
After an update meeting with the grantor, the governor on November 6th, we notified her additional funds were offered. Of course, we let her know we have to come to the board to approve the additional expenditure. So the total is looking to be 12.5 would be the max. Right.
Could you read, I'm sorry, excuse me.
Yes.
Could you restate that?
Yeah, 12. So the total will be based on the original loan. The new total is going to be 12.5 million. And then additional 200,000 for a total of 500,000 in grant funds for administrative expenses related. So, surveys, appraisals, title reports, legal costs, things like that.
Thank you, Dean. Commissioners, Chairman Rivera, would you like to, do you have any questions for Madam Director or the deputy at this time?
None at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioners, would you like to add or interject?
No, it seems straightforward, but those are the costs of acquisition.
Yeah, just to add, so anything not otherwise spent of the 12.5, right? Because it's an authorized loan amount, so think of it like pre-approval. So we're only on the hook for what's actually encumbered, right, based on the acquisition itself.
Thank you. All right, before I continue, we have Dr. Joseph from Wise All that is present in Zoom. And thank you, Doctor, for being here, along with your attorney, Mitch Thompson. And at this moment, I will give you the floor. Excuse me, Doctor.
Excuse me, Vice Chair.
Oh, okay, excuse me, we'll go back.
Yeah, we could dispose.
Excuse me, retract, we'll go back to that. My apologies, Doctor. We will get to you. Okay, so if I'm not seeing any other questions, I'm not hearing any other questions in terms of FY 2025. I'll go ahead and get a motion on the floor, please.
I'll move to approve the resolution FY 2025-010, the resolution approving the amendment authorizing GHURA to accept an additional $2,500,000 in Guam coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds for community development projects. An additional $200,000 for coronavirus and the coronavirus state and local fiscal responsibility funds for associated administrative costs, and the ratification of all the Board of Commissioners actions taken pursuant to resolution numbers fiscal year 2024-016 and fiscal year 2024-016A.
Thank you, Commissioner. May I get a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Show of hands. We can go ahead and take a vote. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Chairman. Motion has passed and it has been approved. Just to reiterate, resolution number FY 2025-010 is officially approved by the board. Thank you. All right, moving along, item number 1, resolution FY 2025-009, resolution approving the condemnation of properties by eminent domain of lot 5327-4-R5, lot 5327-4-2, lot 5327-4-3, lot 5327-4-4, lot 5327-4-5, lot 5328-REM-R2, and lot 5328-REM-2, including fee simple title thereto for public use. Madam Director.
Thank you, Vice Chair Nate. Resolution number FY 2025-009. Resolution approving the condemnation of properties by eminent domain of lot 5327-4-R5, lot 5327-4-2, lot 5327-4-3, lot 5327-4-4, lot 5327-4-5, and lot 5328-REM-R2, and lot 5328-REM-2, including fee simple title thereto for public use. Whereas the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority, GHURA, was created in part to adjoin the national policy to promote the health, safety, and welfare of its people by proper planning of community development through all available federal and local governmental programs and through encouragement of private enterprise to participate in the common task of community improvement. And whereas the governance of GHURA is vested in the Board of Commissioners and empowered with all powers, rights, duties, privileges, functions, and obligations prescribed or provided by 12 Guam Code Annotated, Chapter 5. And whereas on May 10th, 2024, the Honorable Lourdes A. Leon Guerrero, Imaga Hagan Guahan, transmitted a letter to the GHURA Board of Commissioners. And whereas an offer of a loan was made to GHURA for capital projects, specifically the acquisition of real property for the development of healthcare facilities and related community development projects within the municipality of Manilao. And whereas on May 28, 2024, the GHURA Board of Commissioners accepted the funds and responsibility to its use and purpose, consistent with 12 GCA subsection 5104, F. And whereas the GHURA Board of Commissioners delegated the task to the GHURA Executive Director, empowered with all powers, privileges, duties, or functions under 12 GCA Chapter 5 relative to the purpose and conditions of the loan. And whereas powers granted to GHURA by 12 GCA subsection 5104J for the acquisition of real property or any interest or estate by way of lease, option, purchase, gift, grant, donation, appropriation, bequest, devise, or by the exercise of eminent domain or other. And whereas pursuant to 12 GCA subsection 5104M, GHURA may acquire any interest in real property, including a fee simple title thereto, in the connection with any project under 12 GCA Chapter 5. And whereas 12 GCA subsection 5104M requires as a condition to the exercise of the power of eminent domain to acquire any real property or interest therein, which GHURA may deem necessary for its purposes under 12 GCA Chapter 5, that the GHURA Board of Commissioners shall first adopt a resolution finding and declaring that the acquisition of such property is necessary for such purposes. And whereas GHURA finds, absent any analysis or study to the contrary, that reasonable consistency to the 2022 Guam Medical Campus Master Plan provided an objective basis for its action. And whereas GHURA evaluated potential acquisitions based on information provided in the 2022 Guam Medical Campus Master Plan, further qualifying acquisitions based on size, contiguity, acquisition complexity, and budget. And whereas GHURA identified Lot 5327 as Priority 2 due to its size and contiguity to Lot 5280-3 Priority 1 and Lot 5328 as Priority 3, weighted higher by its contiguity. And whereas through additional research, GHURA identified that Lot 5327, was subdivided into 6 properties: Lot 5327-4-2, Lot 5327-4-3, Lot 5327-4-4, Lot 5327-4-5, Lot 5327-4-R5, and Lot 5327-2 right-of-way. And whereas 5 of the prospective properties collectively designated as Priority 2, Lot 5327-4-2, Lot 5327-4-3, Lot 5327-4-4, Lot 5327-4-5, Lot 5327-4-R5, all register ownership fee simple to Hong Yi Tian Inc. Whereas Lot 5327-2 right-of-way or R/W is a right-of-way owned by the government of Guam. And whereas on August 23rd, 2024, GHURA's real estate agent engaged with a representative of Hong Yi Tian Inc., wherein Hong Yi Tian Inc. indicated interest in an offer from GHURA and gave permission to have the property appraised. And whereas on September 30th, 2024, Priority 2 appraisals were completed and reported as follows. Lot 5327-4-R5 was appraised at $2,200,000. Lot 5327-4-2 appraised at $110,000. Lot 5327-4-3 was appraised at $120,000. Lot 5327-4-4 was appraised at $144,000. And Lot 5327-4-5 was appraised at $109,000. So the total was $2,683,000 for those 5 lots. Whereas on October 1st, 2024, GHURA made an offer to Hong Yi Tian Inc. in the amounts equal to the appraised values. And whereas on October 2nd, 2024, GHURA's initial offer was declined by Hong Yi Tian Inc. And whereas through negotiations between agent and the representative of Hong Yi Tian Inc. on October 2nd, 2024, the offer was revised, becoming the second offer and made as number 1, appraised values plus 10%. Number 2, a property reservation of 1 acre commercially zoned, C, during the development/planning process to be determined by GHURA, representing the maximum GHURA is willing to offer without abandoning its fiduciary responsibility. And whereas a request was made by Han Yi Tian Inc. to extend the deadline of the offer to accommodate a meeting between agent and the owner of Hong Yi Tian Inc., a citizen of the People's Republic of China, or PRC, and who resides there full-time. And in consideration of the circumstances, GHURA agreed to extend the deadline. And whereas on October 14th, 2024, the owner of Hong Yi Tian Inc. and agent met, wherein the owner indicated his intention to develop the property and build housing for residents of his city located in the PRC, and alternatively requested an even land exchange to this end. And whereas GHURA duly considered the proposed alternative and concluded that it was beyond GHURA's ability to grant. And whereas on November 6, 2024, GHURA made its third and final offer of number 1, appraised values plus 10%, number 2, a property reservation of 1 acre commercially zoned during the development/planning process to be determined by GHURA, representing the maximum GHURA can offer without abandoning its fiduciary responsibility. And whereas on November 11th, 2024, GHURA's third and final offer expired without acceptance by Hong Yi Tian Inc. And whereas GHURA concurrently sought the acquisition of lot 5328-REM-R2 and lot 5328-REM-2, collectively referred to herein as Priority 3. And whereas on October 15th, 2024, agent contacted the owner of Priority 3, who expressed interest in a potential transaction for the properties, further indicating a desire not to sell for a sum less than $4 million. And whereas on October 19th, 2024, an initial offer was made of number 1, the purchase price of $4 million, number 2, subject to the appraised value plus 10%, not to exceed $4 million. And whereas through negotiations between agent and the owner, on October 23rd, 2024, the offer was revised, becoming the second offer and made as number 1, purchase price of $3,800,000. Number 2, subject to appraised value. Number 3, if the appraised value is less than $3,800,000, the price shall be adjusted to the appraised value plus 10%. Number 4, if the adjusted price is less than $3,500,000, the owner shall have the option to cancel the transaction. Number 5, a property reservation of 0.60 acre, light industrial, M-1 zoned during the development/planning process to be determined by GHURA with Route 15 frontage. And whereas on October 24th, 2024, the second offer made on Priority 3 was rejected for the following reasons. Number 1, owner believed the price was too low. Number 2, owner desired a reservation of 1 acre to be determined by the owner. Number 3, owner desired that all related improvements, example given, water, power, sewer, road access, and a driveway, to the reserved lot be paid by the government of Guam, and the owner will not be assessed connection fees. Number 4, owner indicated a desire for a quick sale if GHURA paid $7,600,000. Number 5, owner indicated a desire for future discussions when the appraisal is completed. And whereas on November 6th, 2024, priority 3 appraisals were complete and reported as follows. Lot 5328-REM-2 was appraised at $2,020,000. Lot 5328 REM-R2 was appraised at $1,950,000 for a total appraisal of $3,970,000. And whereas GHURA duly considered the proposed alternatives and concluded that it was beyond GHURA's ability to grant concessions and purchasing at more than 191% of the appraised value, would violate cost reasonable principles. And whereas on November 7th, 2024, GHURA made its third and final offer of appraised value, number 1, appraised values plus 10%. Number 2, a property reservation of 0.60 acre, light industrial M-1 zoned during the development/planning process to be determined by GHURA with Route 15 frontage. And whereas GHURA finds that all reasonable attempts for land purchase were made and that the heavy decision to acquire these properties through eminent domain is necessary. And whereas GHURA finds that plans outlined in the 2022 Guam Medical Campus Master Plan would better serve the community by way of island-wide access to healthcare with future consideration of healthcare access to special populations, including but not limited to the elderly and veterans. And whereas GHURA further finds that the opportunities for new infrastructure, economic development, and future attainable housing developments would further benefit the community. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners hereby finds and declares that the acquisition of Lot 5327-4-R5, Lot 5327-4-2, Lot 5327-4-3, Lot 5327-4-4, Lot 5327-4-5, Lot 5328-REM-R2, and Lot 5328-REM-2 is necessary to carry out its purposes under 12 GCA Chapter 5, and be it further resolved that the Board of Commissioners hereby condemns Lot 5327-4-R5, Lot 5327-4-2, Lot 5327-4-3, Lot 5327-4-4, Lot 5327-4-5, Lot 5328-REM-R2, and Lot 5328-REM-2. And be it further resolved that the Board of Commissioners finds and declares that the real property acquired herein above shall be inuring to the benefit of the public generally or any substantial segment thereof. And be it further resolved that any actions in eminent domain proceedings pursuant to 12 GCA Chapter 5, subsection 5104N shall be brought in the name of and on behalf of GHURA as plaintiff, and title to the property shall vest in the authority. And be it further resolved that declarations of taking in advance of final judgment shall be filed for properties condemned, and title to said lands in fee simple absolute shall vest in GHURA. And be it further resolved that timely deposits be made to the Superior Court of Guam for each condemned property in amounts equal to the appraised values respectively as just compensation. And be it further resolved that an additional sum of 10% shall be deposited for each condemned property respectively in advance for any additional sums owed for just compensation as determined by the Superior Court of Guam.
Thank you, Madam Director.
I'll just end it now if you want to give the floor to.
All right, thank you, Madam Director. To reiterate what I mentioned earlier, we have Dr. Joseph that is present on our Zoom, and he's accompanied with Mr. Attorney Thompson. Mr. Joseph, Doctor, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, board members, for allowing me to talk. And thank you all for all the wonderful work that you actually do on Guam. I would like to sort of start this out by saying that the property I own is 2 7-acre lots, one on the northwest side of the back road, the other on the southeast side of the back road. I do not believe you need the property on the southeast side, according to all your preliminary data and everything else. And my property is not a slum or a blighted area. GHURA is not proposing to building a housing project on my property. My third big point is that GHURA is exceeding its legal authority by taking property that is not slum blighted area to use for something besides a housing project. I would also like to correct the data that was given. Yes, I was given 3 proposals to purchase, however you want to phrase it. The first proposal, after capital gains, would have given me a loss. The second proposal was a little bit better. And after the second proposal, I did indicate to the real estate agent that what he was doing was he was assessing the property as agricultural. It appears that no one knew that the property was already changed to M1. And I spent about 2 years changing the property to M1. At which point they came in with the $4.2 million offer and 0.6 acres that I could keep. No, I did not say that I wanted to choose my 1 acre out of the 14 acres. I said, as opposed to GHURA saying that they are going to designate which property I get for 1 acre, I said I would like it to make it a joint decision. How would you feel? How would anybody feel if people were just taking their property for eminent domain for a hospital that is not wanted by the medical community, that the hospital is not what the physicians say they need? Okay. I've seen the letter by Pramila Sullivan to your board, and I believe it should be read into the record. Okay. But I just don't see what you are doing, why you are doing it. And this just seems honestly so wrong, so rushed, etc. One other correction that to make is no, I did not ask for a driveway. No, all I asked is that when they put in the sewer, I not be assessed sewer fees for the 1 acre that I get. That is all I asked. Okay? Yes, I did make a joke that if you doubled the offer, I would sign right away. And yes, it was referred to as a joke to the real estate agent. So what you are stating in this meeting, I find to be inaccurate. And do you have any questions of me? I know this is not a Q&A session. But, and I would also like to have my lawyer speak after me.
Thank you, Dr. Joe. One moment, please. Commissioners, did you want to, we got a few. Joe.
Well, basically, I didn't get 3 legitimate offers because only one of them was offered with the M1 zoning.
No. So when the original offer was made, it was made based on an estimation based on previous sales by our agent. That's why it was all subject to final appraisal, but every offer was made in consideration that it was M1 zone. Now, it is true, based on the preliminary title report and the land management hadn't updated yet, so it wasn't reflecting its M1. That's why we had to go back for, we're considering additional funds because it wasn't originally showing up as M1. But every offer made was consistent with an M1 zoning. That's why the offer was so close to the final appraised amount at nearly 4 million. So our agent was slightly off, but close enough. It was considered all 3 offers as M1.
There was a $3 million difference between the first and the last offer. And your first 2 offers came in before your assessments came in. So why are you making offers before the assessment comes in? I mean, it just sounds like you're trying to, please don't take this wrong, steal things from us before we have the information. You're rushing things before you have data. And again, those first 2 were not done with the knowledge of the M1. The real estate agent, Mr. Christopher Murphy, told me that specifically to my face. So I don't know where you're getting your information from. I'm getting it from the person who you hired to be in contact with me.
Thank you, Doctor. One moment. Attorney Thompson, would you like to also add to that?
Yes, Commissioners, Dr. Joseph and I very much appreciate you entertaining our comments this afternoon. I just want to add that Dr. Joseph is not being unpublic spirited, but our concern is that we are waiting for our own appraisal. As somebody once said, trust but verify. We're trying to make sure that the appraisal that the government, GHURA, is referencing is accurate. We're trying to corroborate that information. And I believe Dr. Joseph has advised Mr. Murphy or other representatives of GHURA that that's what we're waiting for. Once we have that information, Dr. Joseph will be in a better position to decide if maybe he should accept the offer. That's really our concern here, is why the rush? And again, that's all I'd like to add at this point. And we very much appreciate the commissioners allowing us to put our 2 cents in. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Attorney Thompson. And thank you, Dr. Joe. We will definitely be in touch. And I hope you know that we don't in any way see this as a way of abusing our quote unquote powers, but we are on a mission to create a medical environment that our people have been suffering and dying needlessly for years. And if we need to rush to get these properties in order to facilitate an environment that our people can actually look forward to and take pride in, and that's something that we're going to have to do. And I understand it completely where you're coming from, and I have to absolutely respect it. I may not like it, but the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And our generation and the coming generations are going to look forward to the day where they don't have to go off island for their medical treatment. They're going to be here. And yes, granted, the road to hell was paved with good intentions. In hindsight, generationally and medically speaking, our future, our children and our grandchildren will thank us today, no matter how disruptive or emotional it got in its genesis. But I promise you that we will definitely be in touch, and you will not be entertained. So I thank you both for attending this meeting today, and also providing your insights to the public and to our fellow board members. So
May I-
thank you.
Make a final comment?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that opportunity. I do thoroughly, to my core, understand the need for quality medical care. Okay? I run an accredited veterinary hospital. GMH has been struggling due to the facilities. It is unable, due to the facilities, to achieve an accredited hospital. An accredited hospital means an awful lot. It means you are quality. It means you are giving to the community what you need to. Okay? I understand this because we are delivering this to the animals of Guam. We also hope and will help you promote this accredited type care to the humans. But again, I don't believe you are going about it the right way. The physicians have mentioned that they don't like it. The physicians have pointed out that this is not the location where the majority of people get access to the facility. And again, I would promote that the letter from Pramila Sullivan be read into the meeting minutes. And I thank you again for your extra time. And I really do appreciate the work and effort you put into this. And there are no personal assaults meant on any of this. And I did not mean to upset anybody if I did. And I apologize if I did. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And if I may add, there's no animosity whatsoever. This is clearly a contentious moment for all of us. And we're just as human as the next person. And if the roles are reversed, we'll absolutely feel the same way. We're just human at the end of the day. And if I'm willing to sit here and hear you out and our fellow board members, is because we're human. And we absolutely understand and appreciate and could empathize exactly where you're coming from. I've known you for a long time professionally, and you are a good man. You have a good family, and you run an amazing veterinary clinic. And there's nobody here that can take that away from you. Yet my personal feelings are irrelevant, but your comments are absolutely relevant today. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and conclude on this matter. And as I mentioned, we will definitely keep you and Attorney Thompson apprised of any emerging information that's relevant. So thank you. All right, with that being said, go ahead, Madam Director.
I'm so sorry, Vice Chair Nate. I just wanted to indicate as well, we provided the opportunity to listen to Mr. Joseph and his attorney. And I think at this point, if we could also be provided the opportunity to continue with a presentation regarding this entire matter, which the Deputy Director has prepared, so that there is additional information that can be shared with the general public. So if he may proceed with that, he has a slide presentation to present before you go into deliberating on the resolution. Thank you for your consideration.
Yes, thank you. Do you need the floor, sir?
Yes, let's wait for them to. Audrey, if you could let me know, Miss Liz, when the slides are up. It should pop up on our screen as well. Let me just see if Audrey is working together. Oh, there we go. All right, can you go to presentation mode? Audrey, let me know when you're ready. Before I begin, actually, check the job.
Available now.
I'm not sure if they're online or maybe out there.
Hi, Audrey. Could you confirm there's a representative from Hong Yi Tien available? Via Zoom or in person?
Okay.
Hi. Hello.
Hi, good afternoon. We can hear you, sir. Can you introduce yourself to the board today, please?
Yes, sir. My name is Lin Yan, and I'm representing Hong Yi Tian Inc. And I just want to say thank you very much for letting me talk. And it was just gonna be short talk. The whole process that the owner of Hong Yi Tian Inc. We feel
Mr.
like
One
yes,
moment.
yes, sir.
Mr. Yan, hi, this is attorney Elisha Flory. I represent GURA. Could you go ahead and spell your name for us, please?
Okay. Lin Yan, Lin. My last name is Yan, Yan.
Sir, may I ask you, are you the registered agent for the Hong Corporation?
The registered agent is currently off island. However, I am the person who is representing Hong Yi Tian from the first meeting with Mr. Chris Murphy and all the way up to now. So I have been handling all their paperwork and all the meetings.
And so what, besides you saying that you are the representative of the Hong Corporation, what is your affiliation with the corporation itself? What is your position?
I'm not I don't have any position within the company. I'm simply a good friend of the owner, and because the owner does not speak well in English, so he asked me to represent him from the beginning all the way to now. And also he is aware that there's a meeting today with GURA regarding the resolution of the condemnation of his properties.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ying. Commissioners, Mr. Vice Chair, this individual has indicated that he is not officially affiliated with the Hong Corporation. However, he indicates that he has been negotiating with Mr. Murphy, who's our broker. In addition, he says he's here to represent the Hong's interest. So I'll leave it to the board whether you want to go ahead and listen to him with regard to any concerns that the corporation may have expressed to him.
Thank you. Objectively.
We can confirm. He has been the translator for the owners.
Oh, that's what I
Dealing
was,
with our agent,
that's what
yeah.
I was alluding to. Just, okay, so there is rapport there.
I would say he may not be the legal representative, but
There's an established.
But
There's
he
an
he
established
can give
relationship.
whatever concerns the
Sure,
corporation
sure.
may have, sir.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, legal. Thank you, Didi. Mr. Yan, did I say?
Yes, sir.
YAN? Okay, thank you, sir.
YAN.
Thank you. Okay, the floor is yours. You may proceed.
Oh, thank you. I think ultimately the owner feels that the price was too low. I understand Mr. Murphy told us all the prices were based on appraisal, and I think the owner bought the lots back in 2018 with about 2.5 million. So after the appraisal just came out last month. It was priced at 2.6, and which is after 6 years, it went up like $100,000. So we just first of all we just feel everything was rushing it, and I talked to Mr. Murphy a few times. Give us time. We never experienced anything like that, and but however, the first time we got an offer, we were told, um, um, I think the director was going off island on Friday or something. We're saying that, if we can do it quicker, but later on, just throughout the whole process, we just feel so rushed, and didn't have that much time to find for the law or anything to protect ourselves. It seems like the government is driving the boat and we're just riding on it. So like we really want to slow down and figure out what to do with our lots, our property. Because during the 6 years, the 6 year span, the owner has spent a lot of money, in terms of develop the lots, which is not easy. A zone, and we had a surveyor cut up into 54 lots. We did a topo, and our original plan was going through GLUC. We don't know if it's gonna get approved, but we have done everything, and also we have applied for the permits to build like a warehouse on the 4 lots in the front. So there are so many things that's been going on, and also we spend a lot of money in terms of buying the precast houses. So all these things comes in, but we got offer for 2.6 million with the lots we purchased at a 2.5, and then on top of that, all the money we spend, and seems like it's not part of the consideration. We, like me and my friend, like the owner, we don't know the regulation of the federal. I know GURA is a federal branch, but we don't know what's the rules and the laws and everything. I just feel like we just been told what to do. Um, that's our base concern. It seems like we don't have any ability to negotiate, because after the first offer, which is a 2.6 million, and then GURA gave us 10% more and a plus 1 lot, which honestly is not a lot, but but when we got the offer, we were told that was the final offer. So I'm like, okay, final offer, that means no more negotiation, no more this and no more that. That means we just have to take it. But we honestly don't want to take it. So I told Mr. Murphy, give us some times. And all of a sudden, I have people that telling me, oh, the government's gonna take your land through condemnation. I'm like, oh, how, what? And all of a sudden, and and we're here today. Like I think the whole thing is less than a month from our final offer all the way to the board meeting today. It's like we honestly we don't feel like we have any time to react, or even to find for example, a lawyer, or anything that can help us to talk. So that's our concern, and that's all I want to say, tell you guys, because that's how the owner feels. He want me to express his feeling. Yes, sir. That's it. That's all I want to say, guys. Yeah. I mean, I'm not the owner. I don't have a position like I said, but I do want to help a good friend.
Did you get cut off? Yeah. He froze. He froze. Just a few minutes. Okay. It's Mr. Lin Yan, can you hear me now? It froze?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Again, thank you for expressing your thoughts today. Was there anything that you would like to add to that because you froze towards the end?
Oh, no, sir. That's all, sir. Thank you so much for letting me talk. Thank you.
Of course, please. Just as I mentioned as it related to Dr. Joseph, again, we don't take this lightly. This is not something that I think there's a general consensus that we obviously don't feel good doing this. And it's nothing personal. It's more so like we're on a time crunch and we got to get things rolling and we got to get things done as quickly as possible. And again, we apologize for expediting things and, bringing this to your attention, even though, again, our responsibility is to get our projects up and running, whether it be a hospital or a fire station or a police station or a treatment center. Again, GHURA has been we've been the vanguard for many of the developments on the island, whether it be villages or a fire station or a police station or a treatment center for our men and women on Guam. GHURA will still be that vanguard to provide, in addition to affordable housing, we will provide the environment to facilitate the continuity and the preservation of our people medically. So with that being said, Mr. Lin Yan, thank you. And as I said to Dr. Joseph, that we will continue to keep you apprised of any additional information that's relevant comes on the surface. But yes, thank you for your input and thank you for everybody else. But before we continue, our Deputy Director has a presentation. However, before I get to that, legal, I'd like to call for a 5-minute recess, please.
Yes, sir. As indicated, I just recommend that the camera and microphone remain on during those 5 minutes.
Thank you. The time is 1:13 p.m. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. Thank you.
Thank you.
You good? You're okay?
Yes.
Early, Commissioner. When we get a color.
That doesn't tell me that she needs to talk.
I don't think.
Don't know. Yeah, it's still running.
Yeah. She's showing me.
I could have been a doctor with my brain not good enough.
I was about to say, Joe taking off?
Yes.
Okay. I was like, we don't know.
I know. Let me just restart.
So you have the penmanship there, you just don't have the.
Everyone else was lost. I got options.
Yeah.
I was ready to go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks better. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Where from there?
Vietnam.
Yeah. Vietnam is. Oh, okay.
Is that set?
No, it's good.
It's good on it?
Yeah.
Oh, then you're good.
Inside.
Yes.
And just click when I put based on the.
I've never seen it straight.
Yeah, it's gonna be there.
I mean, to the right.
To the right.
So she asked me to.
Was it?
Yeah. Game 4, I was like, Mom, let me think. Power, please.
I don't know why it's shooting.
That's the only way you get that.
You got my side in there?
Yeah, I want to see maps now, you know, just.
Oh, yeah, it'll be on this.
They didn't see me.
Huh?
Been asking questions.
Oh, yes, who's that?
I know everybody needed that. Like long line holding it.
Oh,
Still
Sorry. Yeah, in fact, I was debating, should I wear sausage?
I'm glad I don't feel like I'm the only one there, Kim.
Huh?
I said, I'm glad I don't feel like I'm the only one.
Oh, my God.
Cafe. No way to-
Sabrina,
When
congratulations. Thank
there's
you.
no way to kill the front lights, you know, because that glare on the screen, kind of.
Yeah, we're sure we can. Actually, Alicia,
No.
can you do me a solid?
Mm.
Can you zoom the Zoom window,
Oh, yeah.
maximize it? So the commissioners could see it a little bit better. Okay,
Hold on, my
There.
fingers aren't very good, okay?
let's do a test. Let's come out.
That's a lot better.
Yeah, it's better to see like that. It's just that if people want to write something, maybe they don't. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's better that way. I like to get those two things. Huh?
Presentation.
It's kind of animated, but yes. I mean, it's not really, most of it is graphical, right? Because I'm gonna be doing the presentation, so it's not gonna be notes, but yeah, that's not a problem. But I think- Okay,
I can get closer to the screen.
gotta confirm, Chairman.
Yeah, I will. Alicia, we're gonna resume.
Yes, sir.
Okay, recess is officially ended. It is 1:21 PM. Session is back on. Commissioner Chairman, could you just confirm that you're present, please?
I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to be moving along with our deputy director, who has a presentation that he has prepared. And this is your floor now.
Thank you. So just to go back a little bit into the history of how this all transpired. So towards the end of May 28th, GHURA approved and received accepted funding for the acquisition of properties and other community development related activities, specifically for Manila. And that was received by GHURA with paid for by ARP funds. So if you look at the timeline, that was about a little under 6 months ago. Throughout this entire process, we've been competing against a fast approaching timeline, considering compelling government interest. And so it was no pleasure in, moving this through this quickly, but moving quickly and efficiently is not the same thing as not doing our due diligence as required by law in terms of going through the process. And so under normal circumstances, we absolutely would have taken more time to see if we can come to a deal, but compelling government interest requires us to move forward. And so we're very clear on what that is. Besides the need for a healthcare complex and to move this forward, there's also $100 million in ARP funding on the line that's been set aside to go to this project. So to put it simply, if we don't move forward with this project, that's $100 million lost to the community. That's kind of where we're at. Again, it's nothing personal. I very much empathize and I take no pleasure in this. But to be very clear on why we had to move quickly is we are giving a short timeline with the deadline that's coming up fast approaching to obligate the funds towards the infrastructure, towards the development of the medical campus. And so with that, I'll go ahead and begin my presentation so now that we have the understanding of that background. Audrey, go ahead. So as a little basis, there's been input about where the hospital should go. Some of the comments, I think as recently, just about a year ago, or as an example, when I think one of the senators introduced a bill to determine the hospital location, I believe it was Bill 185-37, stated the bill for the location is introduced based on the matrix study and that the location should be determined using data and numbers, not feelings and emotions, quote, end quote. And that was November 21st, 2023 in the Guam Daily Post. And a similar comment, November 20th, 2023 in the Pacific Daily News. The government commission study from the matrix design should not be ignored because of, quote, personal preferences, end quote. And so, with that, we at GHURA as community planners and developers, we agree wholeheartedly. So when we were given the assignment by the board to do acquisitions, we needed a basis. So we utilized the 2022 Medical Campus Master Plan as our basis, which determined that the Manila site was the best site, provided the greatest access to care for the entire community of Guam, particularly granting greater access to those in the south. And as mentioned in the board resolution, it also has the ability for the population increases that we're having, right? Neither here nor there. The board resolution mandated that we purchase in the Manila Barragata vicinity, and that's what we did. But to just kind of show, we wanted to make sure though that we did our due diligence that the new site that we're looking at our area is not far off, right? That the matrix study is still very much viable. We considered along the SWOT analysis where there might be margins and variability based on it not being the exact Eagles field. And so what we did was to be safe, based on the 16 item points, we looked at those. Go back, Audrey. We looked at areas that we were not 100% on. And so we went ahead and ranked those as the lowest. That being developmental constraints, because it wasn't fully analyzed. Even though it's next door to Eagles Field, it's not Eagles Field. And construction costs. So mind you, it's not constructing on a fault line, but we still gave it less score than EPAL point. Now, despite putting those two items in the SWOT and giving it the lowest score, it still beat out EPAL point by two points. And so based on that, we determined that, okay, Eagles Field is still a good, viable location as the basis. So from that, we went, next slide, please. We also looked at the infrastructure, and we wanted to make sure that utilizing the 2022 Medical Campus Master Plan, that the infrastructure assessments and development projected for it are still viable. They very much are. Public Works, GPA, GWA are in the works of updating the numbers, but they don't anticipate it's going to be much of a change. The major infrastructure points are the 6-lane widening, and they already have the easement for that to widen the road on that. GPA is projecting the additional substations going to be needed for the hospital, the medical campus and the surrounding area. And GWA in terms of installing wastewater, water lines, as well as increasing the pressure around that entire area. And so those assessments are still valid. Because we're next door, it's just going to be a little extension of the distribution lines, whether water, wastewater, or power. And we're still awaiting those updated estimates. Moving on, next slide, please. And so from the original master plan, we have what was the Eagles Field area, which was 110.77 acres. That's the total minus the 2.09 acres on the left of the screen, which was a right-of-way, not really usable. So usable area, we're looking at 110, 111 acres is what we considered. Based on the design, the 54 acres represented the primary hospital facility, and then the remaining were ancillary facilities to support, to include assisted living facilities, potentially veteran homes and other supportive activities for our medical campus. And so we took this original, and this was kind of a basis. We were looking at 110, 111 as being our goal to get to be consistent with the master plan. Next slide, please. So what you have here is the survey map of what you just saw. And based on this, we got the workable area. And so this is the survey map of the Eagles Field property, the original site. Now, from this, we identified the adjacent property, which is right next door, 5280-3. And this became our first priority. Next slide, please. Here's a survey map. As you can see, the subject lot 5280-3 that's the one we purchased from the Camacho estate as priority 1. Sorry, 5328-3 to clarify. That delineating line right in the center delineates between the private property and then where that Eagles Field property starts on the left. So you have all those mixed lots, which were condemned by the federal government, that's still owned by them. And so everything to the left is federal, everything to the right is private. Next slide, please. Here's the vicinity map from the survey. This was used to establish our initial search area. And so right there in the green, that's our initial search area that we were looking at. There were some properties that weren't considered. So that top area there wasn't looked at initially. We didn't need to go further. It's actually further away from the main arterial road. So based on the assessment, getting properties up there for development would start to push it out of consistency with the matrix study, which deemed that the Route 15 was the primary immediate arterial access. So those on the top were not considered. Next slide, please. So in this satellite map, you can see our priority 1.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Could you for the those on Zoom?
Sure.
Could you visually directionalize where property just pointed out there? There's some.
Yeah, so where you see that priority one screen,
Yes.
right across the street there, that access road goes into Fadian, the GPA GWA headquarters. Go ahead and click, Audrey, for priority one. So that's the priority one area. Again, everything to the left of that is federal property. So this represents the first 48 acres we looked to purchase, or we did purchase. And here's our search area based on the satellite image. One more time. Okay, so this sort of represents the original map, and you know, a lot of this isn't necessarily updated. It wasn't reflecting in the Gov Guam GIS. We did do some cross-referencing, and our planners went to land management to conduct research, and PTRs were ordered. So based on our overall search criteria, which was based on size, contiguity, acquisition complexity, and budget, we were able to identify priority 2. That this would be, for reference, the Hong Yi Tien property. Next slide. So what was the original lot 5327 was actually subdivided, as we had confirmed in our search, into 5327-4-R5 and lot 5327-4-2, lot 5327-4-3-4 and -5, as you can see here. So there had already been a subdivided division. So there's 4 house lots, the government right of way, and then the primary lot comprising the acquisition we were looking at. Next slide, please. Next, we identified property 3, priority 3, which originally was lot 5328. This is what would be Mr. Joseph's property. And this, as stated in the resolution, contiguity weighted higher. And what I mean by that contiguity is it contiguous to the primary lot? Is it contiguous to the adjoining property? Now, it being right there between the two, priority 1 and priority 2, definitely made it worthwhile to do the acquisition, right? So you have a greater developmental, more development options, more flexibility. Additionally, with the property being M1, as we're trying to develop the area, as a light industrial, there's no guarantee what would go there. It could range from, you know, as they're proposing a crematorium, but it could also be warehouses for industrial goods. It could be H2 barracks. And so in ensuring the development process and ensuring the consistent use with what the area is going to be as a medical campus, and its contiguity to both properties that are identified as essential for the hospital, it weighted higher, even though it wasn't the largest. So it became priority 3. Next slide, please. So 5328, based on research, it's 2 lots, both M1. And you can see them here. Right there in the middle is Route 15, which cut through the original 5328. Next slide, please. So there were other properties that were under initial consideration and research, but they were not selected, and we'll go through them one by one. So, you know, we're very transparent. So this first one was not selected because of complexity of acquisition. There is an active business there. So in us doing eminent domain, we would disrupt their active business activities. So I believe there's a quarry there. Aside from that, when I talk about complexity of acquisition, to displace an active business, it's a much harder calculation to determine just compensation versus unused raw vacant land that has yet to be developed. And so that was removed from consideration. Next, please. This lot up here was removed because it wasn't contiguous to the primary development area. And I believe it's landlocked. Next, please. This sliver right here was not very viable or usable. In addition, we could not pick anything up in our initial research. There wasn't anything coming up as recent, and it would have required a lot more digging into ancestral lands. So, you know, the size versus the effort just wasn't there. It's really not beneficial to the hospital project. Next slide. Next one, please. This lot up here, while it looks like one solid lot based on the research, it's been subdivided multiple times and there are multiple owners and heirs. And for the sizes that we would be getting, it wasn't worth the complexity. So it became multiple lots with multiple owners. So due to complexity of acquisition, we didn't pursue this. Next, please. That original green lot was actually subdivided. So of the two lots, the top one was not considered because of complexity of acquisition for the same reason. They have an active business going on. It would have been very difficult within the time allotted to determine just compensation to displace that business and for their active losses. Next, please. The one lower. Now there's the sliver that is attached to the hospital property. This one was ranked right there with priority, well, less than priority 3. This would have been priority 4. But because of complexity of acquisition and now we're running up against the budgetary constraints, this was not selected. So this too, like the one above, has multiple claimants. We believe it's under an unresolved probate. And so there are multiple claimants on the property. It would have been much too difficult to acquire within the time allotted. Next, please. This whole bit of property, this again, complexity of acquisition. So there is a house there. To acquire this through purchase, if not agreed upon, or eminent domain would displace the resident of that home. And so that removed it from consideration. Additionally, it's a fairly large lot that goes along Route 15, so it wasn't as viable to our purpose. So it would have required some parceling. So again, overall complexity of acquisition just wasn't there. And so looking at it based on size, contiguity, complexity of acquisition, priority 2 and priority 3 were looked at as necessary as within the budget that we have. Those that are in the green are still up for consideration, budget and time depending. But right now we're trying to get through to up to priority 3 at least. Next slide, please. So should the board approve the eminent domain, this is what it's looking like for the medical campus. Not quite at the 110, but combined, it provides a total acreage of 90.62, so about 20 acres shy from Eagles Field. But, you know, again, we're up against the timeline, right? So the acquisitions coming from the ARP funds as well as the infrastructure. So acquiring the property is essential to properly obligate the funds to install the infrastructure there. And we have until the end of December to do it. Or Guam has the end of December to do it, or all that funding is returned. And subject to your questions, that's all I have. Yes.
What's the difference in, there's the 90.62 and then the bottom is?
So it's just showing because it's separated by Route 15. So the 83.87 plus the 6.75 equals the total available acreage of 90.62. You can see on the sat map, you know, we do have consideration for the sinkholes. But, you know, overall, we can engineer around those. But, you know, the more acreage, the more flexibility they'll have for development. So that should reduce the cost. Unlike the Eagle Point where, you know, you have the fault line, you only have 14 acres to work with. So you're not going to be able to engineer, or you're not going to have development options. You're going to have to try to engineer through the fault line, which is why the matrix study said it was going to cost so much for developmental costs. But going back, that's why, to be fair, we ranked the developmental costs right there with Eagle Point, even though our engineers know it's not going to be the same. but we just wanted to, do our due diligence and be safe. It's still ranked as the highest location.
Thank you, Didi. I appreciate that.
You can close it, Audrey.
Wait, not.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Can you open that back up?
For those that are not familiar, can you point out where the sinkholes are?
Absolutely. Audrey, can you put it back up? My apologies. Can you remove swap the notes for, that's fine. Yeah, actually, because it's not gonna blow it up. So if you can swap the screens, not the master version, but the presentation.
Excuse me, Didi, would you be so kind when the sat map comes back up? Could you physically point it out
Yes.
on the screen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the plan. Okay.
Yeah.
And we were able to confirm it with LiDAR. Can you get it back on the screen, please? So 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Do you have a question?
Oh, no. Commissioner Forrest?
Oh, yeah, so, yeah, they're fairly large areas.
Yeah. But according to, the engineers, right, normally you would do a ponding basin,
But,
but if we can do and prevent infiltration and properly screen the stormwater, they can be utilized instead of the ponding basin or multiple ponding bases, as was with the original design for Eagles Field, as a natural drain, stormwater drain.
Just all purpose.
So it becomes a design feature.
right,
It's gonna be integrated.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
And
is
so there's a bunch of projects that already utilize that technique up at Anderson, where they have other sinkholes. So nothing new, but we would just have to account for that.
right, but it's just for the people that don't know, it's part of the area that cannot really be developed, right? Into with structures and so forth.
Well, it depends. So
Right.
there's gonna have to be the geological, the drilling, and so that'll determine, right? Obviously, there's gonna be at least at minimum, a 25-foot buffer of vegetation around the sinkhole. And then you would drill from the center out and see, that's gonna determine your build area. But the intent is that the superstructure is going to go on the lot, subject to eminent domain, right, of the main hospital, and then ancillary facilities which don't have as much weight are gonna go on the lot adjacent on the 53280. That's the initial concept right now.
Can I ask another question? What date was the satellite, Dimitri? Do you know? It's just
2023, I think, was what came on the map.
okay.
Fairly recent.
Okay. That's good. You know,
Didi, could you also address some of the concerns in terms of the roads?
Oh, yes. So that Route 15, there's actually 100-foot easement. It already exists. So if you go out there and you measure telephone pole across the street to the telephone pole, there's 100 feet. So that's already wide enough for a 6-lane road. So there's not going to be the need to take any property for the utilities or the road that already exists there. You just have to install it and do the road widening, which is what the obligation for the remaining ARP. We're not the ones that are going to do it, right? We were made aware of the timeline. Yes, Commissioner.
isn't that also part of the, I think the military buildup is the back road is one of those highway improvements.
The defense access road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it still the case?
Yes. So, there's opportunity for development all along that corridor.
Right. But I mean, I think they're gonna build it, they were supposed to build it up. In order to go to Anderson to Naval Mag, for example.
I don't believe the entirety of Route 15, but honestly, I'm not the one to ask for that. I can double check with DPW.
Right.
But again, for our purposes here is that the infrastructure, again, we're not just talking the sewer lines, we're talking the water tank that's gonna add pressure so that people can now tap in all the way up. And we're talking about the wastewater lines that they can start tapping into, and the substation that's going to support additional, not just the hospital, but additional development all along that corridor. So those are the major, and the road widening, of course. And so part of the overall consideration from a community planning aspect is that when you're considering the need for population growth, you know, developing the medical campus isn't for today. You need to develop it for tomorrow, right? Otherwise, it kind of becomes almost useless at this point. So you look at the community planning for potential development and growth, it's going to end up being on this side of the island. And so once they do that road widening, we didn't even consider this in the matrix study, is that it would actually rank higher, right? You're going to have less congestion, easier access when that road widening happens. But besides all that, as it exists today, it's still good. Good for the community.
Thank you, Fernando. Is there, in addition to what you presented, is there anything else you would like to showcase?
No, not to showcase, just to reiterate, the board accepted the funding. We accepted the responsibility to break the impasse on where the hospital was going to be. With that, the obligation of the funding came that it would be in Manila, right? That was what the grant loan came with. And we had a short amount of time to do it, right? There's 100 million, nothing to scoff at, to potentially lose that for the community. We're not interested in the politics of it, right? Really, what we're interested in just getting the project moving, right? Not trying to fight and point fingers of who lost the money, who should have agreed with who, right? And that's why, you know, GHURA coming in to do it. So I just like to thank the board for, you know, taking an interest in that, directing us to get it done, right? Even though we knew it was going to be a very difficult timeline, and then the GHURA team for moving quickly on it. But I'd like to end with, you know, I apologize to Mr. Joseph and, you know, the Hong Yi Tien folks. This is not personal. We had a mission we needed to execute. You know, we're sharing exactly why we had to move quick. It's not taken lightly, but this is really where we're at. This is really where we're at. We know there's upcoming appraisals coming out. The final just the compensation doesn't come out to the court. The Superior Court's absolutely going to consider their appraisals. We're not going to oppose it unless they're getting it from someone who's not licensed, right? Who's not using the standard, the uniform standard. And we know both commercial appraisers use USPAP, right? They both utilize the same standard. We have no problem with their appraisal. It'll come out, and the court will evaluate it, and they'll determine what we need to pay, right? But we're confident that based on the appraisal, since it's pretty straightforward, it's raw vacant land, right? There's no active business activity. It's not actively generating revenue. It should be pretty straightforward with the just compensation. So that's why we're considering the 10% in earnest deposit in case there's any variation in the appraisal, which, you know, we don't anticipate there will be because they use the same USPAP standard. And for the record, both USPAP and Yellow Book, which are the two appraisal standards, are both consistent. You cannot consider as part of the evaluation when the government is trying to buy land for a purpose, no appraiser can use that as part of the evaluation. Otherwise, they'd likely lose their license. That's just not the standard. So if the government says, hey, I want to buy it to build this, you can't, you know, consider that as part of your appraisal. And it's for this exact same reason. So you can't try to strong arm the government. And so that's both for the USPAP, which is the uniform standard, and the Yellow Book, which is the federal standard.
Thank you. I want to add something very poignant to this topic. You had mentioned this quite a few times, but just to assuage any of the conspiracy theories that are going on online and that are circulating through social media, and for any type of hearsay and superfluous nonsense, would you please, for the record right now, tell everyone, and respectfully to those individuals who are on Zoom, why was the rush necessary? You answered it at least 3 or 4 times already, but I would like this moment to be absolutely poignant because this is this will put this to bed once and for all. Okay?
Yep.
That this was not rushed because of some type of conspiracy or some type of corruption or some type of party system. And I will go on the record and say that nothing that we've done here today has anything to do with any form of corruption or nepotism or quote unquote the party system. Yes, I said it. Okay? We are going to move forward. And again, as Fernando stated, we're not taking this lightly. And again, we do not take any pleasure in doing this. However, I will leave this to my deputy director. Please, once and for all, tell everybody why the rush is so important.
So when GHURA was asked to assist, gave us really about 6 months. That's kind of what we were left with to research, kind of determine properties, and based on the original agreement, it said Manila. The board, it was either accept the funding to acquire the Manila or don't. Right, but neither here nor there. We had about 6 months because if we didn't get this done, if we don't acquire the property, and if the obligations through intergovernmental memorandums of understanding or agreement, which obligates the ARP funding, is not done before December 31st, all that money is gone, about roughly 100 million. So what the governor had, around that number, what the governor had set aside to get the hospital started. And so, we had to weigh all of that, right, and consider the compelling government interest, which is also the public interest. Nobody wants to see $100 million go away because the legislature and the governor were arguing. And again, we are not interested in that. We were never part of that debate. We were never testified in support of any bill. We are an agency that executes. So to say again, whether it's the governor who provides funds and says, go do this, or the legislature, or the federal government, our legislation, our enabling act says, whoever provides the fund, you get the project done. And that's just what we do. And so we just want to make that clear. Tomorrow, the legislature could try to give us $20 million for a project that they want, and we would do and execute with the same judiciousness and the same fire as we would, because ultimately, we just want to get these community projects going out, right? Getting them moving.
Right, thank you. Also, if I may add to my deputy's point, that regardless of who's in office, whether it be a Republican or a Democrat administration, we are colorblind politically. There is no politics involved in this facilitation of creating, again, a medical hospital / city. Whoever gives us a project, and if we approve on a federal level, we will make it happen, regardless of your political affiliation. Okay? I'm born and raised here, we all are, we know how petty and political our island can be. But that does not apply to who and what we are at GHURA and our commission and our fellow commissioners and my deputy director and my director. Okay, so nobody is politically or economically tied to this project. And that's it. So everybody who's saying anything online and anybody who's spin doctoring anything contrary to what's being said on the record today is spreading lies. And I will put that on the record. Okay, I'm going to go to bat for my team, and I'm going to go to bat for our generations and the people of this island. Our sons and daughters of Guam have not felt a level of confidence in our medical environment ever. I haven't met anybody personally who's confident. I haven't met anybody yet who hasn't needed to go off island to the Philippines or to Tripler if you're a vet, or to Cedars, because we just don't have the capacity. Am I taking anything away from the medical industry? Of course not. They're good people. But the fact of the matter is we're so limited here. And now we have an opportunity. That money has been given to us with an expiration date. And if we don't use that money, it'll be for nothing. So we are going to put this to bed once and for all. And again, we are transparent. If you need anything in terms of what we are trying to accomplish here, our doors are always open. We have hidden nothing. My deputy director has taken quite a beating from a number of sources. For what? Because he wants to do a good job, and our board members will continue to facilitate and support him and our director no matter what. So again, Fernando, thank you for your iteration of our project.
Mr. Vice Chair, if I could just add 2 more things. All the appraisals are available on our website. GURA doesn't conduct the appraisals, right? The final appraisals. Those are done by an independent third party. So all of this, the government estimate is wrong. It's not our estimate. It's a licensed independent appraiser. We contract that out, right? And we do this for a reason. So these weird accusations don't come up, right? These are professionals. So I just want to make that clear, but it's all available on our website. You can see what every lot appraised for. You can see the title reports that go with it. People are free to see it. We're not lowballing anyone, right? But if we when we get audited by the feds, if we get audited, the feds love to audit, right? If they do an audit, they're gonna, how do you come up with this estimate? Why did you go over? We could make a reasonable argument for 10%, right? Legal reduction in legal expenses, and any other reason, but to go above that, right? When, they know the government has ultimate power, that's going to be harder to justify. So again, when we talk about cost reasonableness, we have to do that. HUD, if it's on the HUD, if this was HUD funding, you can't go above appraiser without HUD approval, right? And that's kind of the basis that we do. Since this is ARP, it's still federal funding, right? We have a little flexibility. We don't have to go back to the Treasury to ask a little bit, 10% more, right? But if we start getting into funny business where we're paying 191% of the appraisal amount, I'm not trying to go to jail, to be honest. No, I love the people of Guam, but not worth that. But, they may perceive their property to be more than it's actually worth, right? So it's nothing personal. This was all business, straightforward. It's all out there for the public. And that's it. Yeah, so thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dee.
If I may, Vice Chair.
Yes, Madam Director.
Thank you for the consideration of having the Deputy Director do his presentation, because one of the most important things to us from the very beginning, right, was to do our due diligence, to make sure that what we were being asked when we were presented the opportunity, and it was an opportunity that we needed to present to you. Here is funding that they are offering to us to see if we can help to move forward, a complex for the community. And GHURA has been around since 1962, and everybody knows there's so many. We're not just all about housing, we're about community development. Like at the beginning, everyone went over, and the resolution indicates how many public facilities, recreational facilities, et cetera, we've been involved in. And so I just wanted to really thank the board for listening to all the work that has gone into trying to make sure that we don't miss this opportunity of funding to get something done for the island. That's really our main purpose here has been, let us not have money returned if we can avoid having money returned. Let's do all the hard work that needs to be done, right? To make sure that we're researching everything possible and not, nothing came from scratch, right? As was mentioned, we went with the original medical complex plan and went from there. So I won't reiterate everything. I just really want to thank you for being supportive of what we've presented to you so far. And hopefully your consideration of everything, we've allowed the property owners to, address you. And so now I guess it's just up to you and the Board of Commissioners to deliberate on what would be the best moving forward regarding everything that we've done to make sure that we don't miss an opportunity to, get something going with the funding that's being provided. That's all I had to say. Thank you to everyone, and hopefully, everything will be considered, right? That's it. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Director. Hi, we have a guest here. I'm sorry, ma'am.
Pam Sullivan,
Hi, good afternoon.
nice meeting you.
Thank you. And you had.
I have a letter to read.
Okay, could you, for the board and for those that are on Zoom, could you introduce yourself and who you are?
Mr. Vice Chairman,
Yes,
this is out of order with respect to the agenda. Ms. Sullivan can go ahead and bring up a request to be able to read whatever letter she has before her in the general discussion and announcement sections. I would ask that we go ahead and talk about, you know, the matter before the board now, unless you want to go ahead and allow her to read. Again, I don't know what she's going to read, but whatever letter is in her hand.
Yeah. I should,
Mrs. Sullivan, if you don't mind, because I must confer with my legal. This was, your presence was
is this
not
a
on.
legal opinion?
I'm sorry.
Is this a legal opinion? Can
It's my
I,
legal advice to my vice chairman who's in this meeting, ma'am. You can't just walk into a board meeting and say, hi, I got something to read to the board. I'm just saying it's out of order at this
Okay.
point.
this, yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, Dr. Nguyen, one moment, please. Yeah, excuse me, ma'am. I have
it's just a small letter and I would leave the rest of the stuff for you. I would like to read it, please.
legal.
Again, I leave it to the board if you wanna,
Yeah.
what is the letter, Ms. Sullivan? What is the letter? You would like to, just the gist of the letter.
Okay, it's opposition to intent to build hospital in Barragata and Manila.
Okay. I just feel you're, Mr. Chair, that this isn't before the board at this point. For this hearing and for this matter that you are deliberating and addressing, with regard to the appropriateness of the hospital site is not what we're looking at. This is a condemnation proceeding that we're talking about.
Right.
And I don't believe that again, if Ms. Sullivan wants to address it after you've deliberated and voted and wants to do it in the general announcements, general discussion at the end of the meeting,
Sure.
And you want to recognize her, then that's left to the board.
Got it.
But I just don't think this has any bearing at this point with regard to what is before the board.
I can,
Well,
And if I may add, is what we're discussing based on the original grant agreement. The board was never before GHURA to decide whether it's Manila or Tamuning. When the board accepted the funding, the instructions for the fund were Manila Barragata vicinity, right? We're just executing
correct.
based on the obligation that we took on the funds, right? Like we would with HUD or anyone else. But I would concur. I don't believe it's germane, but you know, never hurts to have input.
Absolutely. Legal, I will confirm and I will concur with your advisement. I must apologize, Ms. Sullivan. I had not had you, you're not on our schedule.
yeah, but still, you know,
But at this moment, I cannot entertain your testimony at the moment.
it's not a testimony, it's just.
Or an opinion, a testimony or a statement, because it's not on our agenda. And you know, those who were allowed to speak earlier were already slated to give their testimony and share their sentiments about the issue at hand.
So can I submit this to you?
Absolutely. Please, if I may also restate that, don't take this personal, but we have to follow a procedure and if my legal and my deputy feels that this is out of procedure, then I will support their decisions as well.
But it's a little bit relevant, no?
And I will,
If I may add, excuse me, yes, it is relevant,
Yeah,
right? And that's not the issue. The issue is that is it in accordance with our scheduled board meeting? And since it's not, I cannot at this time accept your testimony or statement yet. However, you're more than welcome to leave your testimony or your letter or your opinion with us, because it won't be, excuse me, it will not go unnoticed. You know, we don't treat people that way.
so should I just submit it, not read it? Or you can,
We'll put it under general discussion as what legal and my deputy advised as well earlier, and I have to, excuse me, I have to agree with them.
This is a matter that that the board is talking about with regard to one of the things on the agenda, Ms. Sullivan.
Mhm.
So what it is the reason why it's out of order is because you're trying to interject some information while they're in deliberation and discussion.
Uh-huh.
So again, if this was a letter that was from the Guam Medical Association,
Yeah,
that letter was forwarded by Dr. Shea.
yeah,
And that information has already been transmitted to
Okay.
all of the board members.
okay, it has been transmitted.
With regard to trying to read something into the record is in fact testimony. And
Correct.
so that's not what we're able to do here now, because it should not be something that we can address or recognize at this point in this meeting. And I will inform you that on the open government law with regard to 5 GCA section 8103B,
Mhm.
it does not require that a person who is admitted to a meeting of a public agency shall, because of his mere presence, be accorded an opportunity to participate in such a meeting.
Mhm.
And for you to read in the record while they're discussing and deliberating an agenda item is in fact doing that. And so they're going to give you an opportunity to read your letter if you'd like at the end of the meeting, and they can do that at the general discussion section.
Because we're still doing,
Yeah.
we're quote unquote still doing housework, and that's not part of our.
It's
agenda.
the board's work is what they're currently doing.
So you're more than welcome to share your
Just
information.
stay here then,
You can stay. It's a public open meeting, ma'am.
and then I would,
Well, you can address it to them at
Alright,
that
yes.
time, and they'll talk to you, and then they'll be able to see if they'd like for you to read your letter
Exactly.
for the record.
Please don't take us wrong. We're not trying to be insensitive.
yeah, also
Right.
have a supporting documents also.
Absolutely.
And that's
Again,
fine.
just to reiterate, we're not trying to be insensitive. We just want to follow procedure correctly. And we just want to do things the right way, legally speaking.
Okay.
Would it be
you can-
illegal for her to read the letter before, we get
Yeah.
the final discussion?
They've received it. They received
Yes,
it.
we received that letter already.
Then what is the issue with reading it?
Again, the board is not obligated during a regular meeting to be taking testimony either through a written letter into the record. And that is my advice to the board, that we can go ahead and move forward. And it is not inconsistent with the open government law. That can be addressed at the end of the meeting. I mean, can you imagine if you're having a regular board meeting and people can walk in off the street and say, I'd like to read a letter without no communication as to saying, could we please be invited to come? Or we'd like to come and provide some information to the board. That is not something that should be accepted.
If I
Mr.
may,
Vice Chair.
if I may, the equivalency would be somebody walking into legislative session in the middle of session to, go talk to senators.
Correct.
Yeah. Versus, it's not necessarily like a public hearing. Right. Now, when there was the discussion from real parties of in interest, like the property owner is more akin to like a session of the whole, right? Where it's more open kind of discussion, but again, it's parties in interest.
Correct.
When they do that, those are generally by invite, right? To get the information necessary so they can go back in session.
And that's what we've done here, sir.
Exactly. And if I may just, again, go back to what I said originally at the start of this meeting, this is not a public hearing. This is a Board of Commissions meeting. The rules and regs are completely different.
Yeah.
Okay. So during town hall meeting or legislative open or public hearing, yes, that's the time and place. Unfortunately, this is not what this specific meeting is entailed to do. Okay. So we do have business to attend to. We do have agendas that we need to discuss.
I think just for me, it just seems that the Guam Medical Association, and they felt that they've had no say for so long. And so I'm not sure what's in the letter and what you would like to read, but I'm just saying that I don't see why it would be dangerous, or what is the big issue here not to allow Ms. Sullivan to read the letter. No.
If I may, one more time, sorry.
Go ahead.
Then I'm gonna use the restroom. I don't think there's any issue with it. It's just, aside from the real parties and interest, once you now have, and somebody who's not, one of the involved parties talk, then, you know, there could be a line out the door, just keep coming in, right? So it does interrupt the business. So it'd be like the legislature having a row of people in the middle of session coming in to say their piece throughout. Because once we let her do it, then how do we deny the next person? But I don't have any, my recommendation, I don't have any issue with it. I mean, you guys have received it. You know, it's open to the public. If he wants to read it out, I think we've all said our pieces. So it's up to the board.
I've never had an issue. It's not even,
Yeah.
it's not an issue. It's just procedure.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing. And Mr. Sullivan, we can definitely get to your testimony during the end of our board meeting under general discussion. Legal, would you like to add?
That is what I'm saying. Right now, we're in discussion and deliberation of an item in the agenda. She can go ahead and read her letter at the, you know, general discussion, you know, timeframe. But let me try to understand what the deputy director is saying. Are you talking about wanting her to go ahead and read it now?
No,
Before-
just
to read it
in
later.
general, we
Yeah.
have no issue with her
Okay,
putting anything on the record. 'Cause
Exactly.
Even under that item of the agenda, it's still on the record.
and that's what I'm saying. But I
Yeah,
think,
and I have no issues of Mr. Sullivan, I have no issues of you reading your letter. It's just, you'd be okay or not, excuse me, but we have to wait until towards the end of the meeting.
right,
Because we knew.
that's where we are.
So procedurally speaking, we need to address new business first, and then we will get to that. So. Yes, Dr. Lin.
I called this morning, but my secretary did, and I request I can be able to talk to the board regarding my opinion and our GM opinion. I would assume that my name's on the list to talk after Dr. Joseph and the Chinese company. I thought it was confirmed to me to talk to you guys.
General discussion, Doc. In general discussion, because it's not a public hearing, it's a
regular board
it's a
meeting.
regular board meeting. Yeah, that's being conducted. So of course, general discussion, you're free to discuss.
Dr. Wynn, my apologies for the.
Yeah, it's okay.
any
I
type
gotta
of-
go back to the clinic, but
Okay.
I think that Laura, in the statement and your goal is to work with the private community, right? In order to build a project for Guam to improve the life of people of Guam. And this is where, it's understanding we want to talk this thing, but if I have to wait, right now, we cancel our patient for the next 2 hours. There's already patient waiting already. But I think that my opinion and a community opinion on the private side, which is the project for the new hospital, is going to affect, just like you're saying, it's the kind of benefit of few at this point, but affect the whole population of Guam. The goal for DORA is to work with private entity that advance the life of people of Guam. If I have to go now, I will go, and I will say to the board that what decision you make today will affect a lot of people. It's not my hospital, I'll be retired by then. But just like you say, it's going to affect my children, my grandchildren, and people who want healthcare. I think from what I see today, there's a lot of rush to spend this ARP money, and that ARP money to the rest of what we have, 120 billion, can go toward a lot of projects for GMH and the healthcare center and community to improve the quality of care that you stated. I'm not a party line. I'm just like you are colorblind. Okay, I don't talk about politics. I'm not. This is my 30th year in Guam to provide healthcare. I think that if I don't have an opinion to talk today, I have to wait. I really have to leave. But it's really affect a lot. I think that to me, what I say is this made it a rush to use $100-200 million before we had to give back December. That can go somewhere else. But I think that Fernando, I no disrespect to you, but I think that the decision to rush to follow someone in 6 months is going to affect a lot. I think the location hospital is the wrong place to be. And for us to spend that $700 million, it can go to a lot of projects and name everything to improve the quality of care we want. And again, it's better to few at this point, what I hear for today, but affect a lot of people in a negative way. But again, I apologize. I know you have the rule and regulation, and I don't think I have a lot of patients in the clinic waiting for that. You know, I respect your opinion. I think that the board had to be very considerate on what the decision you make today, because to me, we shouldn't rush to something that will cost billions to build, and this is a healthcare people. So now please make a decision wisely. And again, I would say that I can't say everything I say because I know your regulations. So I apologize for taking your time, but but to me, but then I know you have to spend a lot of money in a certain time frame, but I would concentrate and use that money for something else to benefit the healthcare one. Because to me, I don't know your business. I just know the healthcare. And after using Guam, I think I know the landscape here pretty much better than anyone. But I'm not talking about anything, but I just think this is what I see the next 10, 20, 30 years in Guam. And I think we should not rush because we have a timeline. Again, I apologize for taking your time.
There's no apologies needed. Thank you, Dr. Wynn. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair, since we've allowed Dr. Wynn to go ahead and talk before the board, I guess we can go ahead and allow Ms. Sullivan to go ahead and read her letter into the record.
Please, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I'm Pramila Sullivan. I'm a resident of Guam since 1988. And
Ms. Sullivan, who are you here on behalf of besides yourself?
Guam Medical Association. Yeah.
If we could just
I'm
get that
just
for the
giving you
record.
background
Sure.
also, like, in deposition,
Yes, ma'am.
we do that, right?
Right, go ahead.
Yeah, and I served in a lot of position on Guam, work at the university, work at the mental hospital, did all kinds of, So that's my background, okay? I'm Pramila Sullivan. I'm executive director of Guam Medical Association. And I am 81 years old. I may just say that, I have seen the things around. Yeah. Okay. Attention, GHURA, Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority. Opposition to your intent to build hospital in Barragata/Manila. Dear board and commissioners, directors of GHURA, on behalf of the Guam Medical Association, we write in opposition of the proposed site of GHURA intend to move forward on the new hospital in Barragata, Manila, and your proposed condemnation of private land is further unjustified. Because you have ventured beyond your mission of affordable housing into an arena you are not familiar with healthcare and building a hospital. Our healthcare providers who are expert in the arena of development and delivery of healthcare have standing to speak. Direct from GHURA's website, mission statement, okay, public law 6-135. GHURA's purpose is to promote the health, safety, and welfare of Guam's people by elimination of slum and blight conditions, by the orderly redevelopment and renewal of communities by proper planning of community development and by provision of safe, decent, and sanitary dwellings for low to moderate income families. Through all available federal and local government programs and through encouragement of Guam's private enterprises to participate in the common task of improving our island's community while upholding the family values. Okay. To promote the health of people of Guam, you must consider our community of healthcare providers. The majority have objected to the creation of a hospital in the land and the area you have ultimately seeking. Furthermore, part of your mission is to encourage Guam's private enterprises to participate, and thus because you have ventured away and beyond the creation of affordable housing, and again because you are diving into the area of healthcare and building of a hospital and a healthcare complex, you're rising to ensure that we speak up to remind you and to ensure that you are aware of the devastating error of what you are proposing. Attached are the letters previously given to the Guam legislature and the governor, the supermajority of OBGYN, pediatricians, entire Department of Anesthesia, the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority Medical Executive Committee, maternal fetal medicine specialist, our island urologist, and our island's largest medical clinic, SDA, FHP, and AMC, all have already stated previously they support the construction of a new hospital, but does not support the proposed site in Manila at Eagles Field and your new site beyond Eagles, and prefers the site in Tamone. We need functional, practical new hospital, not a jointed public health complex along with physician offices. Therefore, the new hospital does not require a large area to build on. There really are no reasons to have coexistence of new hospital, Department of Public Health and Social Services and Behavioral Center. In fact, it is better to have their entities separate to decrease the congestions. The new hospital, if built in Tamuning, would continue to provide great access to all people of Guam and healthcare providers and continue to allow shorter time for transport of critical patients from private clinics to the hospital. Transferring patients to the higher level of care from clinics to the hospital is crucial and should be done in minimal time. The two large private practices, FHP and SDA, and majority of the private clinics, especially obstetric care, are in Tamuning. Does every minute of transfer matter of the patient and to their families? Absolutely. Furthermore, majority of the physicians reside in Tamuning, and they will not be able to make it to the suggested hospital site outside of their clinic and residence area. The new hospital will not be able to fully self-staffed. They will still rely on community physicians for admissions and care of patients within the hospital. In addition, before even attempting to build a new hospital, please realize that the current GMH is half the age of other hospitals in other island community. And yet it is in state of despair due to the lack of proper maintenance and care. Compared to the other hospitals that are over 100 years old and still functional and nationally accredited and appears new. So if the new GMH hospital is going to be built with the same mentality of how it is managed and maintained, it won't last long. And you will have wasted billions of dollars. Finally, the population of Guam noted in the Government of Guam Matrix study showed that the majority over the people of Guam have greatest, fastest access to care is EPA point. You also have 100% of obstetric providers, 100% of anesthesia providers living in Tamuning. There is no way they will be able to make it in time to serve precious lives of mothers and babies in the area you are proposing. We hope that you take this point at heart and vote appropriately for our people and our future generation.
Thank you, Mrs. Sullivan.
Thank you for allowing me this.
Absolutely.
And I would like to submit this
Please.
supporting document that other previous one.
Yes, I want to add, you brought up something very important. I would like my deputy to just.
So when should I give
I
it?
can take a minute. I'll give it
Okay.
to the secretary.
Okay, thank you.
You brought up a very important point about transportation.
Uh-huh.
If I may let my DD, go ahead.
So that was part of the analysis, not just in the matrix, but you know, that's been said a lot, right? And we do listen and we do take those things into consideration, but actually it's not significant, right? So there were 28,558 ambulance runs, EMS from October 1st to 2023 to October 16, 2024. Of that, 21,894 came from residences, 3,637 came from businesses, 2,367 came from roads, and 660 came from clinics. So of all the ambulance runs as of last year, only about 2% actually come from clinics. So I would probably demystify this notion that if it's not built near clinics, that people are going to die, right? The vast majority, just 2% actually come from clinics. Additionally, just to clear up the record, according to the Matrix study, 2022 Matrix study, that would be incorrect. Section 2.5 drive time analysis, if the hospital of the site is at Eagle Field, 85.5% of the population will be served within a reasonable time versus the 84%, which will be served at EPAL point. The threshold is 30 minutes, and that's to get people to the hospital within 30 minutes. It provides greater access for people in the South to have the hospital in Manila. So there were some things said, but I just needed to make sure that the facts were kind of presented, right? That they're not lost upon it. These are statistical measures. I'm not sure what they're measuring or how they're analyzing it, but that's not what the data shows.
Thank you, Dee. All right, so, and Ms. Sullivan, thank you for your
Thank you
testimony.
for your time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Okay.
Chairman Rivera, would you like to, is there anything you would like to add?
Yeah, thank you. Right. And thank you for chairing this meeting as I'm off island, right, and I'm joining virtually. I just had a few questions, right, to kind of put out there. The first one, right, Dee, going to just compensation. So there was this talk about just compensation and in the process of eminent domain. If we proceed with this process, when you talk about just compensation, because I'm hearing from our some of the affected members of this party that they're not comfortable or they're not settled with the appraisal that was done by Mr. Murphy. Obviously, there are other appraisers out there, but if they so choose to get an additional appraiser and they push that to the court, because as you mentioned, the court will decide, there is an ability for a different appraisal to be accepted by the courts at that time. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And we're open to it. There should be no reason why the appraisal would be substantially different,
Right.
because they utilize the same standard. And here's the important note, want to make it clear is that should this drag out in court, right? Let's say the values go up, whatever appraiser they get has to appraise to the time, the as is value, right? So they can't, and yeah, just to be clear, right? It has to be an appraisal based on the same kind of time and date. So like a new appraisal when values go up, for example, wouldn't be appropriate. It had to have been at the time of acquisition.
And if the court deems that whatever appraisal, either this or that, is more appropriate, we're willing to respond accordingly to that price.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we'll pay the difference. And then there's interest charge, right? So if there's a difference from what was deposited to what the court determines as just compensation, we would be responsible to pay the difference. And there's also potential interest on it, depending, and that's up to the courts as well. So we're aware of that. But ultimately the court's responsibility is to determine what the just compensation is. Now for raw vacant land, again, that's pretty straightforward. It's usually based on the appraisal. And so that's why, the other ones where it may have been too complicated, because we wouldn't be able to really get close enough to a number, right? That would have been drawn out in court.
Okay. Thank you for that. And then another question that I have is in a few of the testimony, or in a few of the parties that were speaking, they talked about this blighted community, right? Or this blighted term. My understanding of blighted term, it deals with communities and the designation of an area that is appropriate for urban development, right? GHURA's mission is partly urban development. But can you speak to this point about the blighted term and how that relates to the project that we're doing, and is it germane to that?
Yeah, so there's typically two parts to the projects that we could do. Oftentimes what you're seeing with the blighted or slum conditions is related to our powers under urban renewal. So that's a whole different process. If we were doing eminent domain under urban renewal, that's going to require legislative approval of the master plan. That usually involves in the taking of homes, right? So for example, Zotnya, Sinahanya were all urban renewal process. That's why they have the streets, sidewalks, utilities as we know it today, and Asin. But what we've been consistent on, just like when we do all of our other projects, is these are not urban renewal projects, these are housing projects as defined under the law, right? So I'm not sure why they keep mentioning slum and blight. That's not relative to what we're doing. We've never cited that authority or utilized it for any of these activities. It's always been towards housing project as defined. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, you're on mute, sir.
It does. Thank you for that, right, clarification. And I think a lot of it has to do with the tie between blighted as a term and eminent domain. Because if you actually look and people just simply Google it up, then it kind of makes a connection between that. But as you're denoting from us, there's a separation between that piece on the eminent domain process with regard to urban renewal and the development portion of a housing project that we would engage upon. And I guess my final question to you is as the vice chair is saying, this is not something we take lightly, right? And this is not something that we are just we're just deciding to make a decision on. There's been a lot of thought and a lot of work that has been put into it, yourself and the director especially. And to just echo some of the things that the vice chair said, I know that you've been taking a lot for this, but even in my discussions with you, the goal is clear, and the goal is what is best for our people as a whole. And so, this question kind of goes out to you, right, in your capacity. I mean, I know you're a U.S. Army combat medic right? You have clinical administration experience, hospital administration experience in your background. I know you were, if I'm not mistaken, in the Guard, you also helped us, put the disaster relief center together when our people needed it the most, right? You're a former senator. You're not somebody who's not been around the block, right? And you're not somebody whose experience, that can be easily dismissed. And so given all that, right, my question to you is, do you believe that regardless of and from what you've seen, regardless of party and what you've seen in the data that you have accumulated and the research you've done, that this project is a good project and is good for our people?
Absolutely. And if I could share this, when we talk about our enabling statute, we talk about health. The doctors have the luxury of just considering the physical health of the people that they see. GHURA has the legal mandate to consider the community health. Now, the CDC has already been very clear, and any good provider will consider social determinants of health, right? How do people live? What are their conditions? Do they have running water? All of those things affect the health of an individual, the health of a family, and the health of a community. And when I evaluated this personally, taking from a community development and planning aspect, we consider the five social determinants of health: access to quality, right? Healthcare, access to healthcare, and the quality of that healthcare, which a new hospital will provide regardless of where it's going to be, at least in terms of quality, what we anticipate. But the access in Mingilao provides greater access to education and the quality of that education, access to social spheres and the health of that, right, for the people's mental health, economic stability. So the new development, stimulating economic activity with infrastructure, with the new area for housing and other things besides just a hospital is beneficial to that. So in terms of the social determinants of health, from a community development standpoint, this is the best choice. Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury to just look at it in a microscope, right? We have to consider the big picture. We have to consider the entire community and the long-term implications of what we want to do. Also, understanding too, the military posturing, right? So based on all that we have, some we can't share. Unfortunately, I can't share what the military says in some of these meetings, but in consideration of everything we know, Mingilao is the best spot. This site is the best spot for a healthcare campus, and I'll stand by that. And I'm open to anybody to prove me wrong, but unfortunately, there's a lot of opinions and feelings, but no one's bringing statistical or analytical reasons why not. And that's just where I'm standing. I'm a professional. I look at objective data, and we haven't seen anything from anyone, right? Just a lot of conjecture, right? You may hear, oh, it's cheaper to build it into Mooning, but nobody talked to an engineer and considered how many pylons you're going to have to put down and footings because you're near a fault line, or how much developable area you actually have, right? Nobody's considered the infrastructure needs of an alternate site. That's why we relied on the matrix study, which had all of those things already in place, right? It didn't require going back to the drawing board, all of that. So yeah, and also there's 100 million on the line. So we have to take everything into consideration. Again, none of this is personal. We try to do the best job we can with the information that we have, but we're open to have our mind changed based on, objective information and data.
Thank you. I appreciate that, right? And my last question, goes out to you, Director Liz, right? Again, it's not something we take lightly, but for the record, I want to hear from you, right? Is this the best decision that we can make, right? Based on all the evidence that we have and all the data that we have in front of us. And, I think also what I want to hear a little bit from you is, a lot of people think about GHURA when they talk about GHURA and they think about GHURA, they think about just housing project, right? And Section 8. And I think that we've realized that our capacity, mission, and opportunity has been always there and is a lot greater and can be a lot greater for the work that we can do for the community. So, you know, can you clarify the mission of GHURA for the record, one, and then two, my same question to you, right? Is this the best decision possible?
Thank you for that, Chairman John. I truly believe that it is the best decision possible, and it's based on, as the deputy indicated, a lot of data and research and consultations with the experts that would know. I apologize for the tech.
Sorry, we lost you.
I know, sorry. Maybe tell me where I was. Was it growing up in Manila or living in Manila for 30 years? Was that
Even
where it
even
starts?
before that.
Yeah, you gotta, I'm sorry, Madam Director, we apologize. Could you just go back to the way beginning, please? If you don't mind.
Go back to where? I'm sorry.
The
You
beginning.
just
Go back
start.
to the beginning.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I think the first question I want to answer is the question that the chairman posed regarding if I feel that this is the best decision that we're making regarding the opportunity with the funding and the timeline that we were given, right? To make sure that we didn't miss this opportunity to have to find the appropriate sites based on the prior the medical complex, the matrix that was done. We didn't start from scratch. We looked at a lot of data, as the deputy mentioned. So I won't reiterate that, but there's been a lot of work that's been going on. We've consulted with various experts regarding the location. And I started to mention that I've lived in Manila for 30 years. And if those of you who haven't driven through Manila, Manila is booming. It has educational facilities there. It has so many different businesses that have opened up their doors there, and there is still a lot, the Manila's where Manila starts and ends, you would be surprised. It ends way up at Laddie Heights, right? And there's all that land in between Laddie Heights, all the way down to as far as just before, I believe, Ta'i, where Father Duenas is. Manila is a huge village. We're not as populated as Dededo and Jico and Tamuning. However, I truly believe it is getting there. And it is pretty central. Um, you know, um, um, there's been a lot of work that's gone into this, and I really truly appreciate that you as the Board of Commissioners listens to all the work that's gone into it and listens to why we recommend, that you take into consideration, the property acquisitions, right? So GHURA's part in this is property acquisitions. Okay, we're not building the hospital, we're acquiring the properties that are needed for the medical complex and community development. And going back to what you asked, Chairman John, about GHURA and all of GHURA's programs, right? You're correct. Most people only know GHURA for its housing programs. And as a matter of fact, most of the things I've seen out in the media says, GHURA should stick to housing. But GHURA has been more than housing since 1962, when it started the urban development, when it started building all the facilities that it has built, and if I may, police stations, fire stations, senior citizen centers, even Head Start, recreational facilities, like the gym, like the community arts center. So we're involved in so many things, and it's not just the community development facilities that we've had. We also provide a lot of public services. And I was recently at a forum where they were surprised to hear that it's really grant funding that GHURA administers that enables a lot of the NGOs to do what they do to help the homeless, to help the abused women, to help youth at sanctuary, etc. We have so many programs under our one house, and all the different divisions that handle those programs. Many of them have a lot of institutional knowledge, and they've been here for decades because they have the passion for the mission that GHURA has been since 1962. So, we don't take things lightly, and we do our homework. And we wouldn't come in front of you with the resolutions that we're proposing if we didn't truly believe that it is really something that is going to be for long-term future, not just the short term, long-term future expansion. This is a location that has, more as far as expanding. It's a huge property. We can't do that at where everybody, is saying at Oka Point, right? It's limited piece of property. There's room for expansion for the generations that we're trying to make sure are taken care of long after we're gone. So thank you for your questions, Chairman Rivera, and I really hope the community remembers that GHURA is not just housing. There is a lot of community development, public facilities, public services that we provide, and that's why we're here. And that's why our enabling act allows us, the flexibility to do more than just what we receive from our HUD federal funds, right? And if I may, the late Director Topalsna actually mentioned that years ago. He says, GHURA could do so much more with its enabling act. And maybe we should start to try to educate the general public that if there's, if it stops here, stops somewhere, maybe GHURA needs to be the one to move something forward. And as the deputy said, we were here to execute an opportunity to make use of funding that we are going to lose if within the timeline that we were given, if we don't, have you take into consideration what the land acquisitions are for. So thank you for allowing me to add my, 2 cents to what the business is in front of us today.
Thank you, Director. Vice Chair, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, Madam Director, for that. Okay. All right, Chairman, if there's something further, I'm going to call for a motion.
Nothing further from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. May I call a motion on the floor to approve resolution number FY 2025-009?
Put a motion to approve resolution number FY 2025-009. This resolution is approving the condemnation of properties by eminent domain of lot 5327-4-R5, lot 5327-4-2, lot 5327-4-3, lot 5327-4-4, lot 5327-4-5, lot 5328-REM-R2, and lot 5328-REM2, including fee simple title thereto for public use.
Thank you, Commissioner. May I get a second, please?
Second the motion.
Motion, may also call for the vote.
I'm sorry, point of order, right? Before you call for the vote, please call for any further discussions.
Is there any further discussions on the matter, Commissioners? None, Chairman. All right. One, please raise your right hand, please. I can see it. 1, 2, 3. Motion passes.
Call it in the affirmative for those who can't see.
And Chairman Rivera has also voted in favor of this motion. Who is attending via Zoom. Resolution FY 2025-009 is officially approved by the Board of Commissioners. Thank you. All right, moving along. Old business resolution number FY 2025-008. The resolution to extend the loan funds for Renewal by GHURA. I'll never get that.
Thank you, Vice Chair. My apologies, but resolution number FY 2025-008, I request that it be tabled as GHURA is still in discussions with Renewal about the funding and the terms of the funding. So can we table it again until the next board meeting, please? We should have something by then.
Yes, Madam Director, we will table resolution FY 2025-008 until you have everything in order. All right, item number 6, general discussion announcements. Number 1, 2024 light cap application cycle.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Rivera. Vice Chairman Sanchez. Sorry, Mr. Chairman Rivera. Anyways, there's a memorandum in the board packet to the Board of Commissioners from myself, and it was with the LITEC team that has been working on the applications for this cycle. So the subject matter is LITEC, which is the Low Income Housing Tax Credits for 2024 application and evaluation and the progress update, right? So just to let you know, today we're just going to inform you that there were 5 LITEC project applications submitted on the deadline, which was on Friday, October 25th, 2024. And the projects range in size and scale with offerings from 30 to 120 affordable units consisting of 1 bedroom and up to 4 bedrooms unit mix. The proposed sites are located in northern and central Guam. Services to specific populations are included in the pool of projects to varying degrees. A 5-member panel, which consists of 3 GHURA personnel and 2 non-GHURA personnel, has been assembled to evaluate all the applications. The panel consists of the following individuals. Number 1, Nicole Alejandro. She's our Section 8 Program Coordinator 3 at GHURA. Number 2, we have Monica Guerrero, who is a Chief Planner at the Bureau of Statistics and Plans. Number 3, we have Robert San Agustin, Director of Office of Homelessness Assistance and Poverty Prevention, better known as OHAP. Number 4, we have Filomena San Nicolas, who is our Asset Management Property Site Manager at GHURA. And number 5, we have Urban Santiago. He's our Architects and Engineering Program Coordinator 3 with GHURA. Now, panelists are tasked to review applications and to independently score each application on the merits of the project. Panelists utilize the selection criteria established in the 2024 Qualified Allocation Plan, known as QAP, which has been provided for you on page 8, to guide them in the scoring process. A total of 111 points are available for award to each project per panelist. And the panel convened for the first time on October 28, 2024, and will conclude before the end of November 2024. Evaluation results will be compiled and presented to the board for review at its next scheduled meeting, presently planned for Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. At this time, the GHURA BoC will be tasked to select a project and award credits. So what they, and then if we go to the following page, for informational purposes, the total tax credits available for award for this 2024 LIHTC application cycle is LIHTC 2023 funding at $3,185,000, and then LIHTC 2024 funding at $3,360,000, so that the total credits available for the LIHTC 2024 applications is $6,545,000. Now, the Board of Commissioners may award one or more projects. Results of the evaluation process, project details, and other information will be made available at the next board meeting. And so you just have in your board packet, it shows that the selection criteria that they look at are 14 items with different point values, and then selection criteria. It indicates that each application will be evaluated and awarded the points in accordance with these criteria, and there are 14 of them again. And unless otherwise indicated, all references to low-income units or low-income rental units shall mean low-income housing tax credit units. The application must have a minimum score of 77 out of 111 points to be considered for award. And then it again shows the selection criteria. And if I just may quickly point out what those are. So number 1, it's project location and proximity, project financial feasibility and viability, project characteristics, the population served by the project, developer, owner, and management team experience and capacity, the community support and involvement for the project and its impact on the neighborhood, the affordability of the rents and the length of the affordability period, local and federal government support, qualified nonprofit organization, qualified census tract, replacement of existing public housing units, project will receive project-based rental assistance, the historic nature of the project, and the developer fee. And so this is being presented to you today so that, you know, all the information, you have time to review it, absorb it, so that when we have the meeting on December 10th, you will have had enough time to, take a look at the criteria and how the panel has come to their selection when they announce who the applicants are at the December 10th meeting, and you award, the credits. Okay, so if you have any questions, I believe Ms. Kathy, under the Community Planning and Development, is here virtually. Otherwise, feel free to send all your questions to us after the meeting up until before the December 10th meeting, when the awards you will decide the awards for the LIHTC funding that is available for 2024.
Thank you, Madam Director. Commissioners, any questions? Mrs. Yeah, you just refer it into Ms. Kathy. You just email her if you have any questions. Chairman Rivera, anything you want to add to that, or if you have any questions?
None for me, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Commissioners, good. Good. Okay, moving along, next proposed scheduled board meeting. This is going to be the 10th of December, 2024. Please mark the new calendar. We want to thank everyone who joined us today. That being said, if nobody else has anything to discuss, Chair, I'm going to call for an adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Yes, second.
Second.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody who joined us on Zoom. I wish you well. Happy Thanksgiving. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanksgiving, yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving.
So that's
Thank you, Eagle, for your council.
Oh,
Thank you.
here.
A bus step.
Oh,
I just want to make sure. And I'm kind of.
Wait, are we?
Okay, now,
Oh, thank
that's
you.
what I'm trying to say.
I know.
All right, you could,